We are back here, Ethan Clerc podcast show. John Gibeau, third time on the podcast. I think that's right. Isn't it? Yeah, I think you've been on 3 times. He's like, yeah, I'm trying to remember how many times I've been on.
It's a year between each episode. But you wonder why your ratings are...
I know, we need you
we couldn't even get another co-host to show up tonight to sit with him.
R.I.P. Colin.
I create logins just to give him 2 stars. That
at least we're getting ratings.
More.
Yeah, well, John, we've been trying to get you on for a while. Busy guy here, doing all kinds of stuff. What kind of things have you been up to lately? Being on documentaries, you're on ABC. Is that documentary that you did or you were part of, is that going to be on Netflix or where's that going to be eventually?
Well, I think it
hasn't came out yet, right?
No, I think January, February. They talked about a limited theatrical release maybe in theaters, but I think it probably will end up being like a Netflix or like a YouTube special. It depends who picks it up. That's really what it comes down to. And, recently Dolly Parton, the documentary is about Dolly Parton for those who don't know. It's about the Imagination Library. And, she's gotten really popular again. She's #1 on the dance chart, they said.
Really?
There's something called Galante or something. It's a dance. It's like a hip-hop dance, something. I'm a million years old, but...
Yep.
Well, if Ethan doesn't know about it, we're doing okay.
I don't know. It must be younger generation.
Galantis. You can Google it at some time. But, yeah, she's #1 on the dance chart right now. And people don't understand. She's given away, in her career, 112 million books to children, and most of them are low-income kids. I had kids in Ceylon the first time they'd ever gotten a book in their lives.
Really?
Their lives. They're 4 years old. They'd never gotten a book.
Yeah.
That's too late. I mean, we get every kid in the Ceylon zip code from the time they're born to the time they turn 5 gets 1 book a month for free.
Wow.
There's never any charge to them. It's all through donations. That's why I started that nonprofit. And so those guys came and visited me a couple summers ago, and they called me from Tennessee and said, we're going to fly into Minneapolis, come see you, and they did. We spent about 2 hours interviewing, and we've been waiting for it to get edited. It's actually, if you remember The Wonder Years, that TV show,
sure, yeah.
The narrator of that documentary is going to be Danica McKellar, who played Winnie.
Oh, sure.
So she's gonna be the narrator.
Did you get to meet her?
I haven't yet. He said he would invite me to the premiere down in Nashville.
Wow.
It's either going to be in Nashville or Knoxville, one of the two.
It better be in Nashville.
Yeah, well, they think Knoxville because that's where Dolly's from.
Oh, but what is it called down there? Dolly Parton's got a big thing in Nashville.
Dollywood.
Dollywood. Yeah.
That's what I thought it was about when Ethan told me that you were doing that.
No, why Ceylon though, John? How did they, I mean, you obviously got in touch with them, but what does Ceylon have in significance? I mean, every child gets the book. Do other towns not do that, like Windham or?
Wyndham does do it.
Wyndham does do it.
I think part of it, as they described it to me, it was the smallest chapter and the newest chapter.
Really?
And so they said, why did you do this? Well, I saw a friend on Facebook had posted something. She lives in Albert Lea and was getting these free books. And I asked her, how did you do that? I spent 3 months trying to get one of the Ceylon nonprofits to step up because all it was a money pass-through.
Oh,
money
really?
goes to the nonprofit. Nonprofit pays Dolly Parton Foundation.
Wow.
They ship the books, take care of all that.
Wow.
Well, I couldn't get one. It's a lot of older people in Ceylon, and I don't blame them, but I tried to get people to, let me use their nonprofit as a pass-through because nobody had ever even heard of this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all over the world. They've given away 100 million books. The 100 millionth book is in the Library of Congress in Washington.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
She prints more books. Her foundation prints more books every year than anybody but Amazon.
Oh, and they're even printing them?
They're actually printing them in a
factory.
factory.
I thought she just got them and distributed
they're taking
them.
the copyrighted books, they're printing them in their factories, and then they're shipping out more than anybody but Amazon. Think about that.
That is crazy.
And so most people never heard of this. Well, then I created that nonprofit, and I got a few people to donate. Jim Johnson here in Windham was one of the first to kick in to try and get that thing going because he understands too. I mean, these kids, if they never get these books from me, are going to kindergarten shorthanded, and so that's been a really rewarding thing. I mean, the Beam Center stuff that's come after that, but they came and interviewed me, and I said I had mentioned earlier he. Sent me an email saying, hey, you may be in this documentary, this ABC Dolly Parton special last week.
Yep.
Here she comes again or whatever. And I thought, man, my friends had seen it. And the one scene, they shot 2 hours with me, and I teared up during one section of that documentary when he interviewed me.
Yeah.
And of course,
that's the part
that's the one that 100 million people see is me going, oh, they never get.
They were with John for 2 hours trying to get him to cry, and it took him to the last 3 minutes for John to cry.
It's either cry or get angry.
Yep.
And I didn't have the medium to get angry. Why does Dolly Parton give away books?
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
I'm really honored.
That's
I was
great.
humbled that they put me in that because, I think people don't give her credit. She's one of the top 100 Americans of all time, I believe, from the music that she's done. the inspiration that she's been to a lot of people, especially in Sevierville County. They had large fires come through 5-6 years ago, wiped out a lot of the county. She went in there and she set it up through her foundation. Each person who lost their house in that fire gets $1,000 a month for a year.
Really?
To help them get back on their feet.
Wow.
She's literally rebuilt their houses for them.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
I really like that book thing too, because then they can take that book if they don't have this is their first book. They don't have a book.
Yeah.
They can read it with a parent or a grandparent or a guardian or whoever they're living with and spend that time together.
Yep.
It's all age appropriate. And then when they're done, what we're doing is they're gifting those books to other people who don't have books. And so these books are hitting people, they're influencing and affecting them, and then they're going to other people.
Yep.
It's like book it forward.
Yeah. Well, and they don't have to send them back. They can keep them,
theirs.
and like you said, they can give them to other kids. So
it comes with their name on it.
Yep.
So these little kids they go to the mailbox and get something with their name on it.
I see a lot of schools now doing cool things with that Scholastic book thing,
Yeah.
where if you don't have enough money, look for sponsors, give money.
Yeah.
They'll get like a book whenever that comes out, because some of those kids never get to order a book, and then the books come, and I remember sitting in school not getting a book, and getting a cool prize or something because maybe you couldn't afford it, and that's a good way for them to be included and get a book.
Well, it seems that it's crazy that she hasn't switched to like online or something like that, because it seems like all like books at one point were really moving towards like Kindle and e-books and everything, and it seems like I don't even know. Do they do the Scholastica book fairs at schools anymore?
Yeah.
Do they really?
I shouldn't. I last time I was there, they did. Yeah.
Okay, because
like,
I
put
remember
it in the library, and it's like
going to Win Fair
and,
for the book fair.
Yeah.
That was a big thing, and it seemed I don't know if that's like as big as it was back when we were younger.
I think we do Rainbow Reads with the horse. We got to get Dolly Parton up to read with the horses up at Rainbows, but the kids still get excited about like they bring their thing, and then But now there's like a lot of toys in there too, like with
really,
like with the book fairs and stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure they're trying to figure out how to make it somewhat profitable, as well as getting the educational thing in there to kind of switch tables with it, or to kind of flip directions with it. I see a lot of stuff on social media right now, and it's talking about millennials versus baby boomers or whatever. And I think people get my generation mixed up with millennials, because I'm not a millennial.
Right.
I think you have to be born before 1995 to be a millennial. So I'm technically Generation Z, where I think that's who they're talking about when because have you heard about the OK Boomer thing?
Yeah.
You've heard about that?
Yeah.
I think that they're referring to my generation as the people that are saying OK Boomer, but they keep saying millennials. So I don't.
Right.
Do you know anything about this, John?
Well, I think millennial is a catch-all for anybody who is
thinking.
younger.
Yeah.
Because back in I would say this probably back in the 70s, 60s and 70s, when there was a lot of anti-war stuff going on.
Yep.
That's the squares, the people who aren't smoking dope, the people like our parents. They didn't call them a name because those titles weren't really around.
Yeah.
I think it's similar. I mean, they're just trying to, blame that one group. And the internet, God bless it. I mean, they got to throw that out there. One person said that, and let's go ahead and make this something big. It's just something stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, to me in this country, could we do, and we talked a little bit about this at the last podcast, let's lower the temperature of everything. Why does everybody got to be against everybody?
Yeah.
I mean, young people are going to have bright, courageous, weird ideas. They're going to be curious.
Yep.
They're going to crawl around in buildings that they know they shouldn't. That should be cordoned off. That are cordoned off.
Yeah.
They're going to do that sort of stuff. The same stuff you did as a kid.
Yeah.
And now go back and go, how dare you do that? Turn your music down. Whatever, millennial.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. I mean,
yeah.
That's it from the beginning of time. Young people fight old people, and old people are afraid because they're close to meeting Jesus. Young people are like, we don't understand if we'll ever die, so they do stupid stuff.
Yep.
I mean, that's the circle of life from the beginning of time, isn't it?
What are they doing? Are they making videos? Like,
well, the OK Boomer thing started. It was a I think it was in Australia or something.
Yeah.
It was a Congress. It was a meeting. It was a government meeting, and one of the younger government people said "OK Boomer" to an older member of the government, then it kind of caught on. So now there's a lot of memes going around where like old people saying something, and then there's a younger person saying "OK Boomer," baby boomer, and
like that stupid white cat at the table that I saw.
Never say anything about the white.
No,
I personally love that one.
I'm sorry, John.
You and I will fight over that because I have
retweeted
retweeted that and I have Facebooked the hell out of that.
Do you make your own?
I do. Oh, yeah, I do.
Girl, is it the lady pointing at the cat and the cat says something?
They call it the screaming ladies meme.
Oh, okay.
There was one, the ladies are saying, "What is wrong with you?" And the cat says, "Why is my dishwasher yelling at me?"
What's the very first one? Does anyone know?
I have no idea. They'll come out with the origin of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that guy that, I don't know, he kind of goes, You know, you ever seen that guy?
Yeah.
And they interviewed him, and he actually donates a lot of money to charity and is a good guy. And
really?
It was some sort of conversation he was having with his kids or his sister or brother, and he was like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, the weird stuff, or even there's that one with the old guy where it's a black and white picture, and there's just an old guy standing there, and of course, anybody types in whatever they want. Yeah. Meme makers are maybe the greatest things ever invented.
Yeah, to be honest, the meme stuff is beyond me. I'm not into it at all. I have friends that are like into TikTok and all these different like Vine and all. I'm not into the meme stuff. I really don't understand it. I think it's just, I don't know. I guess I don't really.
Watch out, John's gonna jump.
I know John's gonna come get me.
The cat one I'll defend.
Yeah,
because I love the cat.
There's
one.
a lot of really dumb.
There are some funny ones with Area 51. I mean, I don't see them either, but we brought up some funny ones with Area 51. I remember.
Yeah.
Like,
and I guess I shouldn't say I'm not into it. Some people like that's all they do is look up memes, make memes, talk about memes. Like I know like
how many memes am I?
Yeah, I know the popular ones, but I can't tell you like specifics. Like people can quote them. They've made whole games on memes. Like what do you meme as a game?
Yeah.
And so I'm
you
not.
You get your tattoo from memes, like a good saying from a meme, and then you see it on someone, and it's like, hey,
yeah,
so that is a meme.
Yeah, I don't know. It's beyond me about all this stuff. And Sherman's here now. Sherman, welcome to the podcast. We just had Sherman on a couple weeks ago. Sherman, we're talking about memes.
I thought you said he wasn't gonna be able to post bail.
He just got out today, so
excellent.
Sherman, what's your favorite meme, or do you not have one?
Well, I don't have a favorite, but I love how my wife says it.
Meme. Meme.
It's GIF or GIF. Have we figured that out?
It's
GIF with a G.
Actually, both are correct. Ben Shapiro solved the issue. He went into that one day.
Wow, we just hear from Sherman that you can say GIF or GIF.
GIF.
So now that debate's...
Unless you're talking about the peanut butter, then you better just say
GIF, yeah.
Well, they broke it down. I thought it was graphics interface. I thought it started with a G, though. Graphics interface protocol or something, or...
Yeah,
it's
an F.
That would tend you to want to say G. Right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know what it is. If anyone knows, comment below. Comment what you think is the correct pronunciation of GIF.
I fight about this all the time.
Or just put a GIF in there of like.
I think GIF sounds better.
I'm certain it's with a G though. I'm sure it's a G.
Better.
It is a G.
Yeah, it is a G. It's not a J. Yeah, it's a G.
Yeah.
I don't know, but what I was saying
Problem
is
solved.
Don't really understand it. But I think what really comes down to this boomer versus millennial thing is a lot of stereotypes are being thrown out there that they think that older people can't adapt to newer situations or whatever, and so anything that comes up that's more modern or progressive, all of a sudden it's okay boomer.
Yeah.
You know, which I'm not an older person, so I can't.
Well,
this is just my.
John could probably relate too. I know some 21-year-olds that are more mature than some 41-year-olds. You know, like goes both ways, and then vice versa. So.
Yeah.
It's interesting. When I was younger, there was never talk of giving me free college. There was never talk of forgiving student loans, really forgiving them.
Yeah.
And now that, some of these candidates, that's their platform.
It is.
You're going to go to college for free. We're going to give it to you for free. We're going to pay off all your loans. There just seems to be a lot more entitlement, and people are okay with entitlement, where I think some of those older generations were like, no, I don't want your help. I'll take some of it, but I'm not going to, you know what I mean? I'm not going to go asking for it.
I'm going to work for it.
And there's nothing wrong with them wanting what they want, but, with that college education thing, you can pay off all their school, and you can pay off school and make it free for everybody else. But on the back end, if you don't fix it with the universities, you fix nothing. Because, what they say, the University of North Dakota, the average 4-year degree is 5.5 years.
Really?
And
why is that? Are they?
What do you think?
They trick you a little bit, or what?
I'll tell you. And from people I've talked to who went there, they said you can graduate in 4 years if you always take summer classes. Well, how many of those kids are taking summer classes? Most of them aren't.
No.
And does it benefit the school to have you go 5.5 years?
Oh, for sure.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
So imagine if the government says, guess what? You're never going to have to pay a penny for your education. Those colleges are going to sit back and go, it's a 6-year degree now.
It could be Van Wilder.
You gotta fix that, and if you don't fix it with the schools and hold them accountable for lack of achievement, it'll bankrupt us.
Is that the movie Van Wilder? Is that the?
I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yep. Yep. I think that the free college thing, it kind of takes away the not importance, but the
significance.
Significance. Yeah, like you have to. There's something behind it that when you're paying for it, you have to try. You have to actually go for it. But when it's free, it's just something like, oh, well, if I fail this, it's
like
not
John said, there's a better way to do it than to just offer free.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily against free tuition, but let's hold people accountable too and get the schools in on it. I mean, you see what the largest salary at the University of Minnesota is?
What is it?
PJ Fleck. He makes more money. He makes more money than anybody in the entire college system in Minnesota.
Wow.
And so are the priorities education?
No.
That's a lot. I mean, great. I'm glad that he's earned the money.
Yeah.
But that's what we're going to do with it?
Yeah. Well, I think the big issue is how much, I don't know what the price of college was and if there's been a trend of it going up.
Oh, for sure.
But it seems like right now it's astronomically high, that you should not have to be paying that much for college. Why do you think the prices have gone up so much? Like, why is it more expensive to go to college now than it's ever been in the history of this country?
Inflation's been a pretty good thing on college. Every year you have a pretty set that's going up. But I don't know, like what John just said, the $4.5 million things with the, I don't know if the
sports have kind of taken over is what you're saying, John?
Well, and you're paying, every
maybe.
single professor has a master's degree. You got to pay for that. And my question is this, the state of Minnesota pays, they pay part of the tuitions for people with their funding that goes to the colleges. They have to live under a budget, and they don't like having to do that. And every year their budget goes up. I mean, what do they say? The per year at the University of Minnesota was at $25,000 a year now.
Is it something like that?
I bet you that could be.
That's at a public school. That's a public school. That isn't a private school.
Oh,
I mean, $25,000
for a public school.
What are we doing?
Yeah,
it takes that much.
Yeah,
and
crazy.
and just to show you, it doesn't cost that much. What did they say? If you're over 65 and you take college courses at U of M, what are they? $1,000 a year? Or they give a break to people who are over 65. It just goes to show you what they charge is not what it costs, and everybody's allowed to make money.
Yeah.
But when does it stop? Yeah. I mean, my oldest son is going to school for HVAC, like plumbing and heating, whatever. And he thought I'd be disappointed in that. I said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "Go to school for 2 years. You make $40 an hour."
Yep.
I said, "These knuckleheads go to school for 4 years, spend $100,000.
Yep.
They're living in their mom's basement, making $16 an hour. Why would I yell at you?"
Yeah.
As a generalization, because some have to go to school for a four
correct.
year.
They say they have to, but how many of those actually relate into the job they're doing? Some of the technical science and medical stuff I get.
Yep.
This other stuff is, do you have a degree? Well, why? Because we require it. Well, why do you require it?
Yeah.
I'm glad that stigmata is going away, and there's more. I don't know if I want to call them campaigns, but there's more stuff on the internet of sharing. Like you do not have to go to a 4-year school. Like that's so unfortunate that that's the mindset of some, that you have to go to a 4-year school when it's 2-year. If that's good for you and that's what you want to do in life, go to that, because what John just said, like.
Well, STEM right now not STEM actually. It's the what you were talking about, HVAC and plumbing, electrical. What do they call those? The trades. Yeah, the trades right now are paying more than a lot of other jobs.
Yeah.
I know there's a shortage.
And that's an important skill to have.
It is, yeah.
Not only are you fixing something for someone that they don't have that skill, but I mean you're making their life better because you're fixing something, even if you want to look at it that way.
Well, they said the average electrician in Minnesota is 52 years old.
Wow. So there's
in
people,
10 years, how are we going to fill the gap?
Yeah.
And, I have a friend who's an HVAC, and he said, really the sweet spot for HVAC is Minnesota, North Dakota, Iowa, South Dakota. And he said, the further you go south, he said it isn't a plumbing and heating, or it isn't a heating and cooling issue. It's just a heat or a cooling issue. He said, so the closer you get to the Midwest, he said in Minnesota, what happens? You turn on your heater, your furnace.
Yep.
And he said, you turn it off, and the next day you put on your air conditioner.
Yeah.
He said, so the salaries, you'll see they're almost double here than they are there, even in a bigger city, because it's all cooling systems. It's not heating systems.
Well, and mechanics even we can just talk about, we can move to another topic, but mechanics, it used to be, the cars all kind of look the same. You could work on an engine. Now they pack everything they can under a hood, and there's computers and there's chips, and you have to learn and be smart and know all that and how to do all that. I mean,
it's crazy.
That's incredible. And then yet you still have to be able to fix the older model cars that don't have all that stuff in them.
Yeah, and people don't realize that. And there was a stigma, I think it's going away now for a long time, that if you don't go to a university, a 4-year college, and you don't get a degree, like a bachelor's degree or master's degree, whatever, then you're never going to go anywhere in life, and you're going to end up staying in your hometown working at McDonald's.
I'm glad you said stay in the hometown.
Nothing against McDonald's, by the way.
No, or staying in your hometown.
That's what was on my mind, because that was a stigmata when I was going to school, because you can't come back to your hometown, and I took some time off. I went to college, and then I decided I wanted to, and there's nothing wrong with ended up landing back in your hometown, and it has its benefits, and and I'm enjoying it right now.
Yep.
So that's another stigmata to crush. Like, go get that 2-year degree, or stay in town and get that 2-year degree, and then these small towns need those trades, and they also do need some 4-year degrees as well. You have to mix and match. It's not versus.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Well, it's just a negative thing, and I don't know how that became a thing, like how people made that a thing. But I think like you can really
it's class warfare.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's what it is.
I think
Is
it's
it?
both ways. Like there are some people that go to 4-year schools that will look down on trade schools, and then there's some trade schools that will like feel like a chip on their shoulder, like but it shouldn't be that way. It should be.
I mean, there's local electricians, plumbers around here who own big crews, probably making $500,000 a year. You see them walking down the street in their shirt that says, so and so electric or so and so plumbing.
Yep.
They're making a ton of money.
Yep.
Do you look at them the same way as a doctor down at the clinic?
It's weird how you have those predisposed. What do you call it? Predisposed
notions. Or whatever,
yeah. Where you
of
think
what people are.
Yep. It's
crazy. They're driving the same vehicles. They're working completely different jobs. But there's
I
a
always
difference
just,
blue collar, white collar.
My friends, are you happy doing it? Yeah, that's all you need to hear.
Yeah.
It's like if you're happy doing it and you're skilled doing it, either way. So
yeah, well, and it was funny because I was talking to Sherman right before we started the podcast, before you guys got here, and he was telling me, he's like, it's really nice to see you doing what you like to do and making money off of it. I'm like, yeah, I do video work and everything. I'm like, how come you think more people don't do what they want to do? And he says people get too comfortable with what they're doing and they don't want to get out of their comfort zone.
Or are they worried about what other people think about them, or they think that that's the route they have to take, it pigeonholed into something.
Well, there's pressure from parents and family and
that's too
what
bad.
they expect you to be. You see that all the time. And, the nice thing in my family is that, none of my family was ultra successful, I guess I could say. None of them were doctors. And I'm not trying to badmouth them, but they were regular blue-collar folks.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had a degree in accounting. That was hard scrabble when he was going to college at Iowa Lakes for a degree in accounting. My mom and him would sell sandwiches at lunch to pay for his tuition.
Really?
They would make sandwiches in the morning and go at lunch and sell it to the college kids to pay for his
Don't talk about
education.
food. I forgot to eat before.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well,
though.
I don't think you want a 45-year-old sandwich.
Just hustling though, grinding to make ends meet. They were doing what they had to do to pay for it.
And he didn't go to college till he was in his 40s.
Really?
Yeah, he was the oldest guy in his class.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy, and that's another like stereotype that you can't go to college after a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
like I don't think like you were talking about 65 years old, you can still go to college. Like if you ever want to go back or finish, or if you never even went and you want to go again, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and I think it's I think our system is supposed to be set up for lifelong learning, so that people can be whatever they want. And one of the things that our society had a real problem with is when they were in older times, people would go to college, get one degree or one skill, and then when that skill would be gone, like for instance, somebody who's a carpenter. A friend of mine went to college at MSU, got a business degree, and became a carpenter. Why did he do that? Because he said at some point, I'm not going to be able to swing that hammer. I'm not going to be able to climb that scaffold. I still need to be able to have a skill, run a business, be able to show people how to do it versus doing all the manual labor. And so it's diversifying what you can do.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, I'm not good at anything. I can do a bunch of things. Well, no. But I mean, I don't have one thing where someone goes, that John Gibeau, he's this.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I've accepted my lot in life.
Good at multiple things.
Right. I mean, here's what I will say. I try a lot of different things. Some of them work out, some of them don't. And someone said to me, you just do a lot of things. Well, I mean, I just try to do the best I can at all of them. Some of them work good, and some of them just don't turn out. But that's life,
Well, and like Damon said, as long as you're happy doing it, right? People don't end up doing what makes them
Failure's
happy.
not the final destination. You fail, and then you just keep going and go to the next one. Which we talked about.
Inspirational.
Well, no, I watched. We said something. It was on my mind, but I'm not a big college basketball fan. But I watched the Coach K ESPN documentary. Yeah. It was like the team that saved Coach K or something. I highly recommend it because it's got a good message.
He graduated from West Point.
Yeah, he did.
Really?
Yeah,
he did. He's no dummy.
Wow.
No.
Yeah. That's crazy.
No.
Yeah.
Did he was in the military then? Or is that a Navy?
No, that's Army.
Army.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
He didn't have a good go at it when he first started coaching, and then he turned around and did some recruiting, which is also with thinking about college education. I guess I'll tie it in. Back then, you had the 4 years. You play basketball for 4 years. Now you have the one and done. So I'd be interested to see, like, as a coach, how. I mean, which way he liked it better, because you get to know your players, you get to build them, you get to make them men, women, depending on what sport you're playing. But now when you're one and done and recruiting, you recruit, they're gone.
Yep.
Well, it's kind of like a school like MSU in hockey.
Yeah.
The reason they're good isn't because they get top tier talent. It's because their kids are sticking around for 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
You don't see that in college hockey.
I miss that in sports.
Yeah, for sure. The level of talent isn't as good. when you had those teams that played together for 3-4 years, I mean, they became a team.
Yeah.
Where Kentucky, Duke, they bring in North Carolina, they bring in these kids. They're really good for a year, but it takes them about 9 or 10 games to even act like a team. So
well, all the Minnesota hockey teams, St. Cloud, Duluth, and U of M. Well, U of M and MSU are all really good hockey programs in Minnesota.
I missed the WCHA.
Must be doing something right.
Yeah.
What's the WCHA?
They broke it. They kind of took all the team, like the Gophers left. It was like Minnesota State, where they're all in the same Wisconsin.
It was a conference hockey.
Yeah, it was a
conference.
conference.
really?
And they broke it up because the Gophers went to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Big Ten started a hockey conference.
Wow.
Adam's going to miss that he's on a sports show.
I know. Adam's going to be mad that we're talking about sports without him. I wanted to talk to you, John, about the South Dakota's brilliant ad campaign here. Before we talk about it, let's just watch the video to remind everybody what it is. Let's see here.
This is classic.
This is hilarious.
An anti-drug campaign from South Dakota is drawing a lot of attention. Take a listen.
I'm on meth.
So am I.
Meth is not someone else's problem. It's everyone in South Dakota's problem, and we need everyone to get on it.
I'm on meth.
John, are you on meth? You're not from South Dakota. My bad. I'm sorry for asking.
It's funny. That whole I'm on meth thing, it's one of the things that they brought up. When I was watching those, I said, the whole thing is bad. On my Facebook, I'd posted here, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, South Dakota had done a similar ad campaign.
The Jerk and Drive.
Jerk and Drive. And and for the people who haven't seen that, there's things that says, don't jerk and drive. That's what the logo says.
Oh, my gosh.
And you, of course, are like, jerk. Or it says, help a friend stop jerking and driving.
Oh, my.
So they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
With these ad campaigns.
Oh, for sure.
They're brilliant.
At the end of the day, the message that they were trying to get out is meth's a problem. I mean, duh. And meth is a problem in South Dakota. Well, duh. But they could have went out and said meth is bad. And so I agree with the way they went at it. For them to act like deer in the heads, like, oh, we had no idea this would do this.
Is that how they're
ad campaigns
reacting?
do this? Yeah, some of them are like, well, you just didn't understand.
I guess I kind of saw it like the governor is like, yeah.
Well, they spent $400,000 on that video.
Yeah.
Or on that ad campaign.
Or maybe even $1.5 million, or for something like
Well,
that.
$1.5 million, I think, was the total for the whole, for the billboards and for the everything together. I think the $400,000 was for the video that said, we're on meth, or I'm on meth.
Okay, so that's the first time I saw the live action, like, guys talking. So now they totally can't say they didn't know what they were doing, because it's a good campaign to get everyone talking about it, like we're talking now. But like, you're just like everyday person. You're seeing the farmer, the kids, and but then when you only see the billboard, it's like, what was the governor saying, or whoever it was saying, like everyone's making fun of our state. Like, was that the trade-off? Because everyone is talking about it, and
people are pretty mad from South Dakota. I know.
As a whole, the population's mad.
Well, it's just a bad way to say it. Like, it doesn't sound good.
Well, they had a couple nights ago, I think it was on James Corden, that English fellow that's on ABC.
The talk show host.
Yeah, he said, well, there's other states that have fallen into the fray here. Cocaine, it was like Colorado, come hit our white powder. And then he was like, Idaho. For Idaho, it says LSD. Our potatoes are chasing us.
Yeah, that's like gold for a comedy writer.
Oh yeah, When I saw that, I'm like, well, then somebody created a map of or drawing of the state of Minnesota, and it said meth. They're on it.
Pointing at them.
I'd like to see the pitch meeting. Like Mad Men, the show and everything. Like how did the firm pitch it to them? Like, were they open? Because man, they're going to get a lot of run with this, like the publicity thing. And I think I read that they actually are a firm from Minnesota.
Minneapolis.
Yeah, they are Minneapolis.
Yeah. Minneapolis ad agency. Yeah.
So that's almost like if they were like how they were. That's kind of a interesting story. Like how they were pitching it to them.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do this, but we're going to get a lot of run on this ad because everyone's going to talk about it.
Well, the difference is too. Something can be viral but not successful. A lot of people have seen this. Do you think anybody that saw this goes, yeah, you know what? I shouldn't do meth anymore. I mean, I don't.
No.
To me, it's like, was the point of this ad awareness of how bad meth is? Because somebody scolded me on Facebook about making fun of this.
Really?
Like making light of people with meth addiction. And I was like, okay, internet police, time out.
Yeah.
I will say, for the record, meth is bad.
Yep.
If you do it, it has the potential to destroy your life.
Yep.
I mean, seriously.
Yep.
But with that being said, this is comedy gold. I mean, I sit on the internet at night, all night, wondering who's going to put up something funny. When I saw this, I go, oh my God, I got to bring out the jerk and drive stuff. And I did.
Yep.
And people were like, we're so tired of you mentioning this over and over
That's
and
kind
over.
of a clue that the South Dakotans are doing if they had that campaign, like the jerk and drive campaign. But there's not going to be any ad that's going to get someone off of meth.
That's a good point. You brought that up. Is it just kind of a thing to bring, like, let everyone else know? Oh yeah, we have a meth issue here, or is it like to tell the people?
Time to start tackling it. It's
time to start figuring it out. It doesn't seem like it's going to do that.
So it's
at
got
all.
a double meaning. And just in your head, you see it like we're on it. Like we have to get on it, obviously, to stop it. But we're on it, like bring attention that anyone could be on it that you might not know. Like it could hit anyone. Anyone could be affected by meth. So it's like a little double. That's what the good ones do.
Well, I don't think anybody anywhere goes, that's South Dakota, they got a meth problem.
No.
But rural America does have a meth problem.
Really?
Rural America has a heroin problem.
I knew about heroin. I didn't know
opioids.
meth.
And there's
was
a big meth problem. And, the state of Minnesota took a lot of steps to eliminate that by, you don't remember a time like this, but there was Julie Rosen sponsored a bill. Senator Julie Rosen sponsored a bill. And she said, what we're going to do is we're going to take Sudafed out of stores if we can. But she said what we're going to do is you have to sign in now when you buy Sudafed.
Oh.
Pseudoephedrine, because they were using that to make
heroin, right?
Make meth.
Oh,
no,
is
they
it
used
meth?
it to make meth. That was their cook method for making meth.
Gotcha.
And so now when you go in to buy any of the stuff that contains pseudoephedrine, they make you sign a form with your driver's license so they can track how much you're buying.
Oh, so you can't go from store to store.
Correct. They were
and
doing
load
what
up.
smurfing or whatever Jesse Pinkman says on
Yeah.
Netflix. They were smurfing. That's what they called it,
Yep.
smurfing.
Wow.
They'd send people to go to these different stores and buy it. And so in Minnesota, that lowered it, and then they just found a different way to cook it.
Really?
Where it didn't require as much
I remember
of that
hearing stories of
Sudafed.
people going into drugstores, family drug, here getting 10 boxes of Sudafed when no one knew what was going on.
I've heard Martin County's got an issue with
they do.
with heroin, and I don't know if it's meth or heroin.
Both.
What
Both.
was it?
Redwood-
Which one
Redwood
is it where
County.
they tap into those big tanks, the anhydrous or whatever?
Anhydrous, that's for meth.
Is it meth? I've heard of like farmers and
Stealing
stuff
tractor
complaining
batteries.
about. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there was a guy down in Iowa. This is probably 10 years ago. He was out trying to steal anhydrous ammonia. And I don't know how much you know about anhydrous ammonia, but it's pressurized. It's liquid inside the tank. And so what happens, and it's really, really cold, like 30 below zero.
Really?
Yes. And so when they apply that to the fields, then it, of course, once it hits air, it vaporizes or goes
okay.
into it
Yep.
becomes the product, right?
Yep.
Well, a guy had went down and Jimmy rigged a bottom of a anhydrous tank with a thermos. And he was filling up the thermos, stealing anhydrous.
Oh, my
He didn't
gosh.
wear gloves. He had third-degree burns on his hands.
Holy cow.
Well, then he ended up going to jail because they caught him
Yep.
because he'd burned his hands. He went to jail. He went to
Yep.
the hospital. He gets out of jail, goes back to steal it again at another place, and spilt that anhydrous on his genitals.
No.
Burned his genitals off. Oh, yeah.
Really?
That's how desperate these people are to
Wow.
get a hold of this stuff. And so I know it's kind of like, ha, he burned his genitals off. It's kind of like, the world seems fair in a way. Like, you broke the law.
Yeah.
The last thing we do is want more of you, so we're glad your genitals are gone. But on a more sad note, it's like,
crazy.
how desperate are you to have a third-degree chemical burn on your hand and then go and third-degree chemical burn other parts of yourself
That's
to
crazy.
get that stuff to make that drug? So, I mean, it's a serious issue, and I don't know what we can do to stop it.
Is it because they're that addicted, like they need it, and if they don't get it, the withdrawals are so bad that it's
Terrible.
like the flu or
Highly addictive. One of the most addictive drugs that we have on the market. I
Wow.
mean, that's why they've said, and I used to work as a drug and alcohol counselor, and they said, basically, there's people who use meth once and they're hooked forever.
Really?
They never give it up.
Do they
Never.
think that the meth around, let's just say South Dakota, Minnesota, whatever, is being made here, or is it being brought in from somewhere else?
Both
Really?
made in Mexico? See, part of the thing too, the Mexicans have gone to making meth because the market has gone away in a lot of different drugs.
coke anymore?
Well, not just coke, but See, here's the thing: cocaine isn't produced in Mexico; it's produced in South America, shipped through Mexico.
Yep.
Methamphetamine can be made in Mexico and shipped here. Why would they ship meth? Well, there's more money in it now. A lot of states are legalizing marijuana. And people don't understand legalizing marijuana in Colorado was a blow to the Mexican cartel because they were shipping marijuana up there.
Yep.
And that's more places. So now they're just diversifying their market, you might say.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's produced around here a lot as well, like from what I've heard. And
It's just
We had
Crazy.
houses in Ceylon.
Really?
Yeah, there was this is well, I was mayor then. I suppose this was 10, 11 years ago. We had the sheriff's department. I wasn't at these meetings. They decided to eliminate the contract with the sheriff's department in Ceylon because they were handling our police work. I mean,
Jeff
we had
McCann would
400
know a lot
people.
on this.
Yeah,
he
he
fill
would.
us
He wouldn't
big
tell us
number.
very
No,
much, though,
but
I don't think.
So we
Police officer
ended up eliminating our police force in town.
Investigator.
And I said,
Wow.
we're going to lose. We're going to end up with meth labs in this town. Oh, yeah, whatever, we won't. Well, 6-8 months later, we had 5 meth labs.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And I'll never forget because I got a call from the Fairmont Sentinel, the newspaper in Fairmont, and the lady says, I need to get a quote from the mayor about these meth labs. And I said, well, of course we're, mortified by this. I mean, a lot of those houses, they can't even be used again because of the chemicals that are produced when you make meth.
Yep.
And she said, well, what else? And I said, well, you can put this in the paper. I said, they've said that this meth has been made, basically a block away from my house for the last 2 years. And I said, I've been buying all my meth in Welcome. And I said, I've had to drive 10 miles and it was a block away. She goes, I can't use that. And I said, well, what am I supposed to say? It's terrifying. I mean, it's not just that there's meth there and people in town have access to it. It's the dangerous chemicals they use to make meth are not just a contamination issue, but an explosion issue.
Get an explosion, yeah.
And so, some of those level city blocks with those explosions. So it's something we've had to deal with in Ceylon, and I think we've cleaned it up pretty good. And people will disagree.
5 in Ceylon,
we had
that's
5.
crazy.
It was it was really devastating. And we,
Well,
what was I supposed to do? I had to make a joke out of it.
Were people coming in from out of town to do it?
Oh, sure.
Really?
They moved there because there was no law enforcement presence. I'm absolutely certain of it.
Yeah. Wow. And it just leads to crime, like we were saying, like stealing stuff and not only the health issues of it and stuff, but
stealing gas cans, all that kind of stuff.
And I think what's getting alarming now is when you think of meth, you're thinking someone as an adult doing it, but it's moving down towards kids, and kids are starting to do it when they're young, and that's super dangerous.
Well, there was a house in the cities. A family bought a house in the cities, and the husband and wife live there. The woman goes in and has a baby, and they test the baby, and he's positive for meth. The woman had never done meth, but they bought a meth-contaminated house.
Oh, my gosh.
And so whenever she touched her face, if they drank out of a cup, the dust and the stuff that was in the air already got into that baby.
Do they have to demolish a house then?
They had to move out. Yeah.
Really? Because there was a meth lab in downtown Wyndham, the photography studio.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they did there, but it's still for rent. Like, you can go. We took a tour of it. It's still there, and
it has to be cleared by the county health officials. They'll test it for meth residue and et cetera.
Really?
We have one house in Ceylon that hasn't anybody in it for 10 years just because they can't clean it, can't get it cleaned. I think we'll end up having to tear it down.
Is it kind of like aspersus where when you tear it down, it could get into the air around?
Oh, for sure.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, these chemicals, sometime Google the chemicals. You probably don't want to do it on your phone. Grab his phone and Google what it takes to make meth.
Yeah.
I mean, these chemicals, anhydrous ammonia is a nasty, just to give you some perspective, anhydrous ammonia, if you were in a concealed area with it with less than 3 minutes, you would die.
Really?
I mean, because of the weights and the volume of how it sits in the air, it removes the oxygen from your lungs. So when you inhale it, it basically just collapses your lungs.
Wow.
And so there's people in Ceylon that used to huff old anhydrous hoses just to get high.
Wow.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's not just Ceylon. I shouldn't.
Yeah,
People are going to see this and go,
Drug capital of Minnesota.
Anhydrous chugging in Ceylon.
Yeah.
Ceylon first and drugs.
Send drug gangs to Ceylon.
Ceylon area first for drugs. But I use it just as a personal reflection. That anhydrous is a nasty chemical. They're using drain cleaner. They're smashing up prescription drugs.
Those
they're
Pablo
mixing
Escobar
things.
ones we did. We saw all that stuff they were throwing into those.
We talked about how cocaine is made.
We watched a video like
Well, and how
coca
they
leaves.
split it.
Yeah.
And how they split it.
Yeah, they put like baking soda and stuff. They cut. It's called cutting it to get the most profit. You might get a kilo of meth and you could turn it into like 5 kilos, and it's not as pure. But that's what they do.
Like my mom's.
And they're cutting it. They're not just used to baking soda or whatever. Now they're cutting it with things that are caustic.
Yeah.
Cause burns or whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I was looking. It was kind of funny while we're mentioning this. It was a map of cocaine prices in the United States, and the closer you are to Mexico, the cheaper it is.
Yeah.
As you move up towards New York, it gets very expensive. So, like, if you're selling cocaine in New York, you're going to make a lot more money than if you're selling it in Arizona.
That'd be interesting to see the meth rates too. Like if meth rates are higher in the Midwest, and that slows down when you get lower because of that. Maybe?
I feel like
know.
meth is a huge issue in the southern states as well, like Georgia, Alabama. Like down there, I don't know like what each state. It'd be interesting to see like the map of what drug is the most popular in each state, because I guarantee it changes. And there's got to be
just like what Mr. mystical creatures in each
yeah,
state.
the mythological creatures of each state. Yeah. And I wonder now that Colorado has legalized marijuana, and I've heard that they're working to legalize shrooms as well. If they're gonna start looking into legalizing, I don't think they'll ever go as far as meth or heroin, but like I could see cocaine becoming legalized if they're willing to do shrooms and marijuana. I don't know why cocaine wouldn't be on the next.
I think there's a difference in addictiveness, if that's a word. Like,
well, part of the problem is when
too.
marijuana. It's a multifaceted problem because marijuana is still not legal by the United States government. Marijuana is classed as a legal drug, and it's a Schedule. I think it's a Schedule II drug. Just to put that into perspective, cocaine's a Schedule II drug. LSD is a Schedule. It's grouped,
Schedule 1 would be heroin.
Yeah.
Meth.
And so here's the thing: those drugs are grouped. Like marijuana is grouped in with those really what we consider more terrible drugs, and it shouldn't be. First off, but we have to understand something too. Legalizing marijuana is not going to fix a lot of problems. It'll get us more tax revenue or whatever. We don't truly know the medicinal benefits of marijuana and why. Because the federal government studies it one place in the United States. That's it, down in Louisiana. They study it in one spot.
Wow.
Because it's illegal. And so they have one guy that's studying the medicinal benefits of marijuana. You see all these different states that have marijuana. They're producing edibles. Who knows at what level they're producing, selling them with THC in them.
Yeah.
We don't know what the levels are.
Yep.
It's all anecdotal evidence. There's no evidence that marijuana cures anything because the government hasn't put any money into studying it. So let's just go and legalize this, legalize this, legalize this. Where does that leave us? Doesn't make us safer. Just because some pothead says, well, it's totally safe and good for you. What is that? I mean,
So you're not for legalizing marijuana?
well, I wouldn't say that, but it's like this. I think to go from 0 to 90 with this issue is wrong, and and Minnesota won't do that. I mean, we have
Really?
medicinal. They won't do it. We have medicinal marijuana. This state has always been a little slower to kind of pull onto those kind of things because it's dangerous. People can say what they want. They may not view marijuana as addictive. Marijuana causes health problems. Now, I'm not saying that marijuana doesn't cure nausea. I'm not saying that it doesn't help with epileptic seizures. I'm not saying that it can't help with any of those things. There's so many of what they call those cannabinoids that are inside THC. They all do a different thing.
is that what that
CBD.
CBD.
Is that what that oil
It's
is?
one of the cannabinoids.
That's legal.
Because
Like, you
I've
can get that in
seen that.
Minnesota.
Well, see, the cannabinoid, it's a certain cannabinoid that has to contain less than a certain amount of THC.
oh, really?
Yes,
I didn't know it
and
had any THC in it.
It has some,
Really?
but there's a certain level it has to be. There's a farmer over by Fairmount that's raising hemp,
Yeah. Yep.
and he has to put a sign. And the difference between the marijuana plant and hemp is male or female. One is basically considered weapons grade marijuana, and the other one is hemp.
Yep.
And so, or stuff used for CBD. And so he has to put sign-ups like, please don't cut this, because he's had people come out and cut plants down, because if you smoke it, it won't do anything for
No,
you.
it doesn't. No.
So he puts up these signs, please don't cut this down, because it costs him $1 a plant to plant it.
Really?
And he's making it for CBD and for hemp.
Yeah. Which
And
they're
so-
making like baskets and stuff, or like
Sure.
fibers, right?
Ropes and et cetera.
Yeah. Yep.
And so to me, it's like I'm not sure that I'm against legalization, but we just don't know enough. And I'll tell you what, the pro-marijuana crowd has done a great job of pushing this through. It's not going to cause any problems. And there was a guy here a week ago that died. If you smoke so much marijuana in a short period of time, like a chronic user, there's been cases where people start throwing up uncontrollably.
I heard about that.
And that guy died.
Yeah.
So when they say there's just no health effects to using marijuana, that's just not true.
So
we
you
don't
think
know
need
enough
more
about
research in it, and then you would be.
it. Well, why do we have to just go, let's do this?
Yeah.
Just because Colorado did it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Have they seen a rise or anything in Colorado? Like, do you know if any of the stats in Colorado, if like crime has gone up or down, or if, incidents of like DWIs or driving under the influence of marijuana,
Yes.
or there's been an increase of anything because of that?
driving under the influence, yes. One of the biggest problems they have is calls to poison control centers, children
Really?
getting hold of edibles.
Oh.
Now that it's more prevalent, kids are getting a hold of these things. And the thing that I hold against these THC manufacturers is that they're making them into candies, gummy bears,
Yeah.
gummy worms,
Yep.
things that are attractive to children. If cigarette companies can't put, Joe Camel on
Yeah.
a pack, why are we allowing marijuana manufacturers to make gummy bears, gummy worms? I mean,
Sour
you're
Patch
marketing,
Kids, I've
you're
seen all of it,
marketing
yeah.
suckers. You're marketing to children.
Yep.
And there's little kids that are getting a hold of it and are overdosing.
Wow.
And they, marijuana usage for people under 18, well, they said under 20 actually, is
Really?
very bad for your brain.
Really? Slows development, or is that what
Slows
it is?
development. It causes chemical changes in your brain.
Wow.
And so that's the part they have studied. And
Yeah.
I know there's going to be people that watch this and go, that John Gibeau, he just hates marijuana. You can say that. That's fine. You know, in this country, it's like, okay, we got to hurry up and do things.
Yeah.
Time out. I'm not saying marijuana is bad, but let's just take a little time to figure out. Let's have the government, let's press our federal government to actually legalize this thing. And we haven't done that.
No. Well, in a lot of states, they've been decriminalizing it. Like, I know Michigan decriminalized it. Illinois, I'm pretty sure, decriminalized it. I think even North Dakota or South Dakota just decriminalized marijuana, which doesn't mean a lot of people
Like for
think that
small
means
amounts or
it's,
something.
a lot of people think that means it's legal. It's not legal. It just means you won't get in as much trouble as if before when you got caught with it. So if you had a small amount, now it's not really a big deal. Back then, I still think Minnesota's pretty serious about marijuana.
Well, I had a Minneapolis cop tell me that if you have a small amount on you, they're not going to arrest you for it.
You're just going to misdemeanor.
In Minneapolis, they won't even cite you. They'll
Really?
take your marijuana and they'll just, if it's a small
Really?
amount, they won't even cite you.
I've heard
They'll
if you
take it and
have
let
it, if
on
you have
your
it in
way.
a car, you can get intent to distribute. Cause
Well, I mean,
it's all up to the officer, and they have the discretion to make the decision of what this person or individual is probably going to do with it.
right.
I don't know what the right decision or what the right answer to that is. But it seems like taxing it and making money off of it, because right now people are doing it either way. We all know that people are doing it either way. There's a huge amount of marijuana being used all over the United States because it's more accessible than ever.
Right.
So I think that taxing it, I do agree with you. There needs to be more research, but I think then taking the steps to make it legal and then, taxing the heck out of it wouldn't be a bad thing, because you could use that money to pay for things that the government's not really paying for right now.
Well, and the cat's out of the bag.
Yep.
Try banning something now. They tried that with alcohol. There was more alcohol in this country than there ever was.
Yep.
They're not getting this cat back in the bag.
No.
In those poor states that are around Colorado, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
Nebraska's got drugs running across their state all the time now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
I don't want to sound like some anti-drug person, because to me there's a time and a place for that. And like you said, if they want to tax it and make some revenue, I just think people have to – I think there's too many people that are viewing this as there's no consequences here. If we legalize this, everything's going to be great. You know what's going to happen? Your kids are going to use marijuana. Are you prepared for that?
They
I don't have
they
kids.
they can use extra tax money to do like drug things like the meth one.
Yeah. Well, that was my point.
Not that kids don't find marijuana now, but it's far more prevalent in
They're
Colorado.
going to be using
Oh,
the
for
extra
sure.
tax money to go. It's just going to be a circle.
Yeah.
Like a circle.
What if they would have taken this $400,000 that they spent on this video and they gave that to law enforcement to do raids and to do investigations into meth use in South Dakota? What would be the difference between that and putting out a video that people are talking about?
I don't think it would go very far. I don't think the money would go very far to do a bunch of raids. And
I think there could be.
time,
I
maybe.
think that would be a
budget's
more
huge.
beneficial use of tax money than. Well, I think the total was like you said, was 1.5 million. If they would have given law enforcement agencies across the state 1.5 million to look into meth-related crimes and dealers and everything, I think there'd be a lot more going on than making a video and some billboards and posters and stuff.
That's interesting you say that, Ethan, doing videos and stuff. You're like shooting yourself in the foot
it's shooting
there.
myself in the foot. For this instance, I just feel like that'd be the more beneficial use of it.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You talked about putting money into law enforcement. That doesn't work at all.
Really?
We have, how many billions do we spend on the war on drugs now? How about we stop viewing usage of drugs as a criminal event and start viewing it as a psychological or an addiction situation? To me, you ever been to an Indian reservation in
Yeah, I've been in a couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the status of those places? Take that $1 million and let's figure out how to fix some of the addiction problem in those reservations. Instead of criminalizing everything and being the most criminal population center in the entire world, why don't we try to figure out who needs addiction help them, and help people stay out of prison? I mean, I don't think putting people in prison is going to create a better group of people. I mean, let's try to deal with these people as people first. I think just saying, well, we're going to give $1 million to cops and they're going to sort this thing out, I just don't think that ever works.
Or $1.5 million to programs that help. Yeah, anything.
I wasn't trying to give you a hard time, but I mean that old adage, well, we'll just throw it at cops and they can bust the dealers. And I mean, they made a big deal. They make a big deal all the time. A city cop will pull over somebody. Oh, they had 55 bricks of marijuana, and they're all going, yay. And I'm going, dude, you caught the one time they brought 55 bricks in while they were trucking 700 bricks, and right next to you going, hey, happy trucker.
10 or 20% of their stuff.
Yeah.
I was in court one day for a non-related issue to me, And they had a guy in there before the hearing that I was there for.
Premise that just to make sure everyone.
It was nothing to do with me. I was not being arrested for anything. But I was in there, and there was a guy in Windham. I think he was maybe from Mountain Lake. I don't know for sure. But him and his wife, he'd helped his wife haul 100 pounds of marijuana across Minnesota.
Wow.
And they were trying to get him to admit, and he said, it was my wife's car. And his attorney was like, listen, you need to, for the plea deal, you need to admit that you built compartments into her vehicle to hide the marijuana.
Oh, my gosh.
And then he played games, and finally his attorney says, you're going to go to prison for 10 years.
Wow.
For 100 pounds of marijuana. Is that what you want to do? And he goes, yeah, I built the compartments, and yeah, I knew it was my drugs. And that guy got 90 days in jail for 100 pounds of marijuana.
Holy.
90 days in jail.
Wow.
And so they're not even the courts are going, listen, we're full. Their prisons are full of people that are first-time, low-level drug offenders.
Yep.
Does it matter if it's cocaine or marijuana? It does in everyone's eyes. But, what are we doing there? We're not stopping it. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
And like you said about, like, you're going to catch, they always make a big deal. I even know, like, the Windham Police Department made a big deal. They made that big bust coming through here. You're catching the mules. You're catching the lowest level people in the whole drug operation.
Yeah.
You're never going to catch a cartel. You're never going to catch the manufacturers because they hire these people that really don't have anything else to do, and they pay them quite a bit of money.
Or they threaten them to do it.
Yeah, and they know that if they if these people tell who they got it from, that these people are done for because the cartel or whatever has people in every prison across the country.
Did you know there's a TV show that is all about that? Like they follow people in the airport, and they're just in an airport, and they're like looking at suspicious people, and then they bust them and they go through the whole thing. Yeah, I forget what it's called, but I was flipping around a couple weeks ago and found it. And it was pretty interesting.
Wow.
Like the guys don't know the mules. I don't know if it's called drug mule or not, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and they actually show them. They blur out some of their faces sometimes, or they have them. They're swallowing the balloons, what have you, or backpacks with hidden compartments, or they're putting it in dye bottles where like the dye's on top, but then the bottom's just the stuff, and you can tell by the weight. Or like she's got a carry-on, and it's just a carry-on of dye, and it's like, well, why wouldn't you just mail that? It's full of drugs. But.
Well, and I was watching Drugs Inc. That's a big TV show where they go all over the country and interview drug dealers and people. They interview every part of it: people using, dealing, like manufacturing, everything. And they don't realize, I don't think a lot of people realize how many drugs are coming in shipping containers from other countries. Like China.
Oh, yeah.
China is sending over all the opiates to the United States. They opened up printers and the giant rolls of like ink, they cut one in half and it was full of opioids. Like the whole thing was just full.
Well, like fentanyl takes one dot and you could die, or one sprinkle.
Yeah, that's what Jeff was telling us, that it's just a small amount and it'll kill somebody. And there's an entire tube this big loaded with it.
Yeah.
And it just blows me away. And so we're fighting this war that probably will never end. Like, I don't know. So maybe you're right. Maybe putting the money towards that's not the right step to go.
You got to take at it at all angles. I think you got to try a little, surround it and try to, like, the addiction part's huge. Like, you got to see where you can kind of try to head that off before even someone picks it up. Like, do a campaign or, like, do education. And then once they're addicted, like, see if you can rehabilitate and then also find it. I mean, it's a whole...
Well, and the people think
No
I'm
easy
crazy,
answer.
but there was that Mormon family that got wiped out here in Mexico a couple weeks ago. Did you hear about that?
No.
There was a group, 8-10 people, children, that were gunned down by the cartel in Mexico.
Really?
And Trump actually came out and said to the president of Mexico, listen, we know this is cartel related. If you want, we'll send our military down there, give us a couple months, and we'll take care of the cartel. And, of course, the president of Mexico, who I think is on the take by the cartel, he says, no, we're good. We're
super
good.
corrupt.
But I think if Trump is reelected, I think it's likely that we will end up in Mexico fighting the cartels.
Really?
I think he'll just force his will on it. I mean, it's funny. The cartel's been cutting people's heads off for 25 years or more. And when Americans get killed down there, then it becomes a serious issue for everybody.
Yep.
That Ciudad Juarez, which is on the El Paso, Texas, Mexico border.
I've heard about that.
It has as large of criminal CSI lab as New York City.
Really?
They got like a $10 million grant from the United Nations. Because what was happening in that city is they were finding bags of heads, bodies.
Oh, my gosh.
Bodies and heads separated. So they needed the DNA equipment to be able to tell which head goes with which body.
Oh, my
That's how
gosh.
bad it is.
Yeah.
But that's what the cartel does. I mean,
Yeah.
unless we get serious about taking on that cartel, this flow of drugs is going to keep rolling.
Well, that's why people keep coming into the United States. They want to get the heck out of there because the conditions are horrible. The government is working with the cartel to help them out. So all these people are looking for help, and the government is no help at all. The police are on the side of the cartel. Everyone's trying to take bribes.
You don't join the gang, you die.
No, yeah, exactly.
That was one thing I was unaware of and learned from that story too. I didn't realize there were Mormon sects in Mexico.
I didn't know that at all. I didn't know that.
That was like I had to look into that a little bit.
Wow. They're actual. Are they're actual Mexicans, or they're people from the United States
No, they're
that are
white,
Mormons,
regular
really,
Mormons
that live
from,
in Mexico.
from Utah that have moved to Mexico, have lived their lives there, been there a long time.
Yeah, it wasn't just they were there.
No, they lived
really?
there.
I didn't know that.
That's where their lives were. Like, I heard the
Holy.
cartel ask them to basically give up a piece of their land, and they told the cartel to get bent. And then the cartel went out with a bunch of people. There was one kid got wounded. He carried a couple of his family members like 14 miles to try and find help. But basically, they killed like a 6-month-old baby. I mean, the cartel just brutalized him.
This sounds like a movie. Mormons versus the cartel.
Well, and I'll tell you something. I don't always agree with what Trump said, but I was not against Trump if they wanted to send our military down there and clean that place up a little bit, because everything that happens down there affects our group here.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like stability in Mexico would benefit us.
Oh, for
because
sure.
if that government was stable and there was more free flow between us and them,
Yep.
I think the crime would clean up. I think people would be more willing to stay down there.
Yep.
Well, then you look at it like from the angle we were just talking to, like from different angles, not only just military or like military/police, if that's the same thing, but like having some of the factories, like letting some of the factories be open, because if you take everything and move it to the United States, there's not going to be anything left for them there. So having some factories down there is beneficial because they're going to have jobs and keep their economy too.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, we draw a line, an imaginary line, some man did, between the United States and Canada. We're not even thinking about building a wall between us and Canada.
No.
But we're going to build a wall between us and Mexico. Well, it's different in the lawlessness. There's a ton of lawlessness down there. For being so close to us with these man-made lines, Mexico couldn't be more different in us in the way their government operates.
Yeah. Wonder why
the people pay the price.
why did it
That's a section
how
two they
did
gotta
it
work
get
on.
so bad? Like, how did it get to this point? Just the cartel completely overrunning the government, pretty much.
Well,
They have more power than the government. They have more manpower.
In old day Mexico, before they were colonized by the Spaniards, it was a lot more level-headed governmental group. I mean, they had the Incans and the Aztecs, or the Mayans, I think, they had populated that. That was the native Mexican or whatever. The Spaniards came in, raped, pillaged, gave disease, whatever. The colonization of Mexico did not do them much favors. And so that's where things kind of went downhill over the course of time.
It's amazing when you look like you just said, John, farther back on the history of how stuff comes to be.
Well, you look at for instance, if you ever heard of Chichen Itza, it's a big giant pyramid down just probably 50 miles north of Cancun. This thing is a large, and I'm sure you've seen a picture of it. It's a large pyramid. Has
Is it
stairs.
kind of square looking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was built by the Mayans.
Oh.
And this was before the invention of the wheel.
Wow.
And so these giant stacks of limestone, how did they get them there? The nearest limestone quarry is like 10 miles away.
Oh my gosh.
So they say it was built by aliens or whatever.
I love we always talk about pyramids.
Every podcast.
Just about every time.
But it's like this. They were a very civilized people. They were very evolved and developed people. They built that pyramid in a position where during the spring when they need to plant their crops, the sun will hit that at a certain level and it makes like a snake. It makes a snake symbol on the ground from the shadow.
Really?
And that's when they know when to plant their crops.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
Crops,
crazy.
We were going to talk about crop terrorism.
Ag-Terrorism, yeah. That could
Maybe
be
that's a
something,
good lead-in.
final topic for the night. I don't know if you've heard about this, John. Ag-terrorism going on in Minnesota. It's horrible. This is something that I thought was new, but I found something from 10 years ago in Ontario that this happened. I'll play the video. The first one that I could find, and then we'll kind of go into how it relates locally. Let's see here. Converting. I don't know what's going on here. The incident that happened locally, though, I guess I'll just go into
Must be converting it from Canadian to American.
Huh?
Is it converting?
Yeah, I don't know. That one's not playing for some reason. What happened here in Hutchinson, 10 miles west of Hutchinson, is this picture right here. Hopefully this will pull up. Is a chain wrapped around a corn stalk. And people were saying at first, because this farmer actually found one pretty close to the road, a chain, so they thought it might have just blown off. But this one was in the middle of a huge field.
Correct.
So clearly somebody went out there with the intention of destroying a combine. And someone told me actually that combines have something in them that'll stop if there's something that isn't supposed to be pulled in.
Right.
And so thank God, because otherwise this could have done a lot of damage, potentially hurt somebody, and caused thousands of dollars worth of damage.
Yeah, they call it ingestion, and we see that a lot in insurance. Usually it's rocks or debris gets sucked into it, and it chews up the equipment that separates the grain out.
Yep.
And so that exactly is the issue. When that gets sucked in, it's ingested into the machine. If it makes it through, you can have $50,000 worth of damage.
Holy.
Are there groups doing this? Do they know? Are they?
They said non-GMO groups, people that are against GMOs.
Yeah.
They had a group of hunters over in Wisconsin. There was an anti-hunting group that was tipping over deer stands and setting booby traps.
Yeah.
And this is the state of the world we live in.
Unbelievable.
When they talk about a next civil war, this is the kind of stuff. These are the sects that will break off into different groups and try to stake their claim for whatever power there is. I mean, doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to these farmers have been punished enough over the last 5 or 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you know any farmers and you talk to them, it's not good times.
No.
Farm suicide is up 30%. I mean, there's farmers that are killing themselves because they're having to sell the farm that their grandparents had.
Yep.
And to see this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, I hope I don't.
I
catch
couldn't
them.
believe it was real. I had to look it up, and then
Yeah.
it was like you said, it's ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
it's just like
Well, I saw it on Facebook. I'm like, I've never heard of ag-terrorism before. So then I started doing research, and I figured out that there are groups of people who actually go out in the middle of the night and like torment farmers. And
someone just opened up a grain truck or something, spilled a bunch of grain, or a gravity wagon or something. I think.
Yeah, it was at a site, like a corn site. They opened up one of the chutes and let out, I don't know how many, 500 bushel onto the ground.
holy cow. Wow.
I hope they catch the.
Yeah, I don't know
of
how
people that are
do you
doing this.
catch somebody for doing something
Yeah.
like this. There was another one, this one right here.
Yeah.
This is another Minnesota related one.
What's that?
So this is posted here, November 18th. $1,500 reward for any tips that lead to an arrest on the vandalism of our combine. Between November 9th and 14th, somebody dumped diesel exhaust fluid in the diesel fuel tank on our combine and has caused very serious and costly damage. The combine was sitting on a farm that we work on in Obion County side of the old spillway at Reelfoot Lake. A police report has been filed with the Obion County Sheriff's Department. Oh, so maybe this wasn't Minnesota, but it was another somewhere in the United States. Somebody had dumped diesel exhaust fluid into the diesel fuel tank, and so they caused a lot of damage to it. So they're not just putting crap in cornfields; they're also literally damaging the machines themselves.
You want to talk about baby boomers and that OK boomer stuff. During the 1960s and 70s when they were all protesting Vietnam, et cetera, and all those kind of things, they set many of those people set a terrible example for the way that you stick it to the government and you stick it to people. These farmers are buying GMO grain because guess what? That's all that sells. If they plant non-GMO crops in there, you know what happens? They got to tend the hell out of them, and they don't have the chemicals. They can't use chemicals or they have to use chemicals to kill things. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what are they supposed to do?
Wow.
I mean, who sells non-GMO soybeans and corn for the average
You
farmer?
almost have to clean your own seed in order to even try to make it work.
It's not practical.
No.
And so they're punishing the wrong people.
What do you say?
Should I switch to the cameras?
Oh no, you can just leave. We're pretty. Yeah, I don't, and I've never, before, like I said, I never had heard of anything like this before. Yeah. So it's too bad, and I hope that it doesn't. I hope other things like this aren't going to be happening around here, continuing on from now. I hope they
violence, vandalism. That's not. I mean, if you have an issue with it, deal with it some other way. I mean, if that's your thing,
post on Facebook or bitch about it all you want, but going and damaging,
what everyone relies on for.
See, people do this for awareness. I don't love that.
No.
Because now you've made some idiot aware that if I put a chain on a corn stalk, I can screw with someone.
Yep.
So that's a double-edged sword. God bless the internet for letting us know that you can put a chain on a corn stalk. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know it gets the word out. Let's catch these people.
Yeah.
I mean,
but how many other dumb idiots are going to see this and be like, I'm going to go out there and
I
do
didn't
that.
know I could do that.
Yeah.
Or this is funny. Let's see this happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's horrible.
Yeah. You can tell in our economies when the farms aren't doing well. Look how much retail is closing. That's directly related to the farm economy. I got to change the subject real quick, too. The mustache. Explain the mustache.
Hey, it's No Shave November.
That's
I'm going
right.
for the Ron Burgundy look. I'm just waiting on the maroon jacket, John. So next episode, maroon jacket. It's just the dirty mustache.
That's all November?
Yeah, I'm not going to ever look like Damon here, or you, John, but just the little mustache, and then after November, it'll be gone, so you don't have to worry.
I give you credit for doing that. But I don't grow a mustache.
It's like ballsy,
because
or
Balsley,
whatever it's called.
I end up looking like Paul Blart.
Oh,
Right now, you do look kind of like a motorcycle cop, or
that's giving him a lot of credit.
Porn star,
the porn mustache,
the porn star guy who shows up with the pizza delivery.
Yeah.
If this film thing doesn't work out, we know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Just say you're going up for a role.
On that note, we
oh,
might have to
don't
shut
say
it
you're
down.
going up for a role.
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning into the big 60th episode
It was. We didn't
of
make
the
a big deal about it, but
podcast.
it was 60.
Damon's been here for the co-host for a bunch of episodes
from
now.
now.
Yeah.
So it's been great to have you, Damon. Thank you so much for coming. Colin was sick tonight, so we couldn't get him. It was good to get John on here, though.
It's our first 3-1 too, so it's a special 3.
Yeah.
60.
Yep. So it's been great to have you, John,
Sure.
and great
thanks,
to have you
John.
back on. I know we'll have to get you back on in the future because we didn't even talk about everything I wanted to tonight.
Nope.
So we'll have to get you on, and hopefully I can help you get your podcast running so we can actually promote that because we've talked about it for the past 2 times you're on. So
Well, and for people who are listening too in the area, I want to say real quickly on Thanksgiving, my nonprofit is sponsoring a free Thanksgiving meal to anybody who wants to come down to Ceylon. It goes from 11 to 2 a.m. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m.
is it a party?
Right, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the 112 West Main Street in Ceylon. Welcome to anybody. We targeted folks who, either can't afford a meal or if they don't want to dine alone. Or just looking to have some fellowship. Our nonprofit, to give thanks back to the community, to the area, is offering a free Thanksgiving meal.
Did we actually mention the name of your nonprofit?
I was going to say.
Ceylon Area First. Yep. It's on Facebook at Ceylon Area First. And I've had someone donated 8 turkeys. I had someone donate 50 pounds of potatoes.
Wow.
And I'll give proper credit to those people on Facebook. And we've had, people have donated, pies and bread and dinner rolls and all the different things to make this happen. And so we have a lot of support in the community, and we really want to just get people down there if we can, and it's open to anybody.
That's great.
So,
and for those that aren't aware and listening, what's the population of Ceylon, John? Roughly?
369 people.
Yeah,
Ceylon, Minnesota.
Doing it down there with under 400 people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, what a great thing. We'll put the link to your Facebook and you have an event page or something for that
I do.
on
It's
Facebook?
It's Day of Thanks under Ceylon Area First.
I'll put the link for that
even
too.
if you can afford your own meal, that's fine. Just come down in the afternoon and have some pie with us. I mean, we just really want people to come down. We're thankful for our community, and I just never ever want anybody in Ceylon to go without a meal.
That's great.
Or have to sit alone on a holiday. And our community supports us, so we want to show that.
That's awesome. What a good way to end the podcast on a happy, positive note here. So thanks again, John, for coming.
Sure.
We'll be back next week. Me and Damon. Hopefully, Colin will be joining us unless the flu or whatever is going around.
Yeah.
Make sure
Is he growing a mustache? Sorry.
No, he's not growing a mustache. Right. We keep going back to mustache.
He's still waiting for his down there hair. Let's park the brakes a little, pump the brakes a little here.
Okay. We will end the podcast on that note, John. Thank you very much for coming. We'll be back next week. Make sure you're out there sharing the podcast, getting it out there. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, all your favorite podcast directories, and we're going to continue to grow the show, get great guests on, and make sure you're recommending topics you'd like us to talk about. This is the Clerc Podcast Show. We'll be back next week.